We're continuing our class on order of operations, but this time we're going to incorporate integers. So we're going to have some integers, some negative numbers into our operations. And we're going to apply BEDMAS to each of these equations. Now, before you start, you want to feel comfortable already with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. So before you get to this part, you want to look at those videos and feel comfortable with how to add, how to multiply, how to divide, and how to subtract integers. Otherwise, you may get a little bit confused with all the sign differences. Okay, so we're going to look at this first one, which is 4 bracket negative 2 plus 6 divided by 3. So one of the things that we need to notice is when we have a number right next to the bracket, like this one, it means multiply. So if there is no operation sign, so we don't see a plus here in between the 4 and the bracket, we don't see a minus in between the 4 and the bracket, or a division, it just means multiply. So if you see a number right next to a bracket, always keep in mind that is a multiplication. Okay, so when we look at BEDMAS, and we have this question right here, what is the first thing that we need to take care of? So it says BEDMAS, we've got a B for brackets. So do we have any brackets? Well, yeah, we've got these brackets right here. So that means that we need to take care of whatever's inside the bracket first when we're following this question. So let's bring down our 4, because our 4 stays the same. We're not doing anything with it yet. And we're going to take care of what we have inside the bracket at the moment, and the rest of the question stays the same. You want to bring it down. Don't leave any number behind. So negative 12 plus 6. Negative 12 plus 6 is negative 6. Now, you're following the video on how to add or subtract integers. You would know that you would be subtracting the 6 from the greater number. So the greater number is a 12. So 12 minus 6 is 6. And you keep the sign of the greater number. And in this case, the greater number is a negative 12. So it's a negative 6. Okay, we continue with our next step. So looking at BEDMAS, we've got 4 times negative 6 divided by 3. And so we know that we've got here division and multiplication. And the way that we do this is whichever comes first from left to right. So in this case, our multiplication comes first. So 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. And we bring down our divided by 3. Don't try to do this all in one line so that you don't get confused or so that you don't end up missing a sign somewhere. And now we can do our division, which is negative 24 divided by positive 3, which is negative 8. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So we've got 6 minus 10 divided by 2 plus 5 times 3. Remember, if we've got a number beside the bracket, it's multiplication. So what are we doing first? Well, according to BEDMAS, we've got to do brackets, but we don't have any brackets. Don't confuse this with a bracket. This is not what it means with brackets. This is actually a negative 3. It's trying to identify that it's a negative 3. This is a bracket when we have an actual equation inside a bracket or an operation inside a bracket. This one is just identifying that we have a negative number. So this is not that B for bracket. Then we got exponents, which we don't have any on this question. Division and multiplication. So we've got actually both. And so in order to be fair and take it step by step, we're going to do one at a time. And we said we're going to do the one on the left side first. So whatever comes first. So we've got our 6, which at least stays the same. And then we got minus 10 divided by 2, which is 5, plus 5 times negative 3. And I'm not going to do the multiplication on the same line so that we can make sure we're doing everything step by step. Next, we're going to take care of this multiplication because BEDMAS tells us it's division then multiplication. So that means everything else stays the same. Okay, plus, what is 5 times negative 3? Is negative 15. Okay. All right. So then what we're going to do, and this can get a little bit confusing, but if you'll notice, we have here a positive sign and we've got a negative sign. This right here is almost like if there was an imaginary 1. So imagine an imaginary 1. So let me use a different color for that. And I'm not trying to confuse anybody, but this is how we get rid of that bracket. So we're going to have here, I'm going to change my color to a red or a purple. Let's see here, so that we can see what we're going to be doing. So we're going to rewrite this question, and we're going to have an imaginary 1 here. So if there is no number, but we've got a plus, and then the first thing we see here is a negative, we need to get rid of this bracket somehow. And so what we're going to essentially do is we're going to multiply this imaginary 1 into the bracket where we have a negative 15. So if we do that, we would have 6 minus 5, and then this becomes negative 15, because positive 1 times negative 15 would be negative 15, and this is how we already got rid of the bracket. Okay, now we can continue with our subtraction. So we've got 6 minus 5, which is negative 1, and we bring down the rest. So notice how we're doing step by step. Okay, so now we've got a negative minus a negative. And what did we say about subtracting integers? Is before we continue, we gotta switch the sign. So this becomes negative 1 plus negative 15. Okay, so again, you need to watch the video on how to subtract integers so that you understand what's happening here. So negative 1 minus 15, when we're subtracting integers, we need to change the signs. So this becomes negative 1 plus negative 15, which is negative 16. All right, and our last one here, and then we are going to do some more, but they're going to get more complicated. But next one here will be 2 times negative 6 plus 4 minus 4 minus 9. Okay, so this time we're going to try to get rid of the brackets at the same time. So we have brackets as the first step. So let's do what's inside each of these brackets. So negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2 minus, what's 4 minus 9? Negative 5. All right, now our next step. So BEDMAS tells us it's brackets, exponents, division and multiplication, addition and subtraction. Do we have multiplications? Yeah, we have 2 of them. We've got this one right here, and we have this one right here. Why do we have one here? Because, like I said, remember there's an imaginary 1 here, and that's how we're going to be able to get rid of these 2 signs that are together. See, a negative and a negative right here. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, and our imaginary 1 right here, so negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. So we did the 2 multiplications. Okay, now negative 4 plus 5 is 1. Okay, these next 2 questions can look a little bit intimidating because they're so long and they've got so much stuff going on. But if we follow what we've been doing, which is taking everything step by step, there shouldn't be any issues. It'll be just like any other question. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So 12 minus 8 divided by 4 plus bracket, and then inside the bracket there's another bracket, 4 plus 2 plus 3 squared, close the bracket, times 2. So what is all this? Okay, well, let's do the same thing we've been doing step by step. So we know that in BEDMAS, the first thing we need to look at is brackets. So do we have brackets? Well, yeah, we have a double set of brackets. So you'll see we have this bracket right here, but all this is inside another bracket. And so what this all means is that we're kind of putting this section all together as one big bracket. But inside that big bracket, there's other things that need to happen first. So inside the large bracket, we have this operation. Bracket 4 plus 2 plus 3 to the power 2. So if we apply BEDMAS inside the bracket, we should be okay. The first thing then that we do inside the bracket is B for bracket. So we'll do this part first, and then we're going to continue with whatever else is on the bracket, following the BEDMAS rules again. So to start, let's just write everything else that we're not doing anything with, because this will come at a later time. Okay, and like I've said many times, you always want to bring everything forward. You don't want to leave any man behind. In this case, you don't want to leave any number behind. Okay, so let's have our bracket here. And now we're going to do what's inside this bracket. So inside this bracket is 4 plus 2, which is 6, plus 3 squared, close the bracket, multiply by 2. Okay, so now we're ready for our next line. In our next line, we still have a bracket open. And inside the bracket, we have an operation of 6 plus 3 squared. So if we look at BEDMAS, we've got brackets, so we're already in the bracket. And inside the bracket, what comes next? Do we have another bracket inside the bracket? No, we don't. Do we have exponents? Yes, we do. We have this exponent. So that will be the next thing we do inside that bracket. So again, let's bring everything forward. Okay, and now let's take care of that piece. So we have the 6 plus, all right, 3 to the power 2, which is the same thing as 3 times 3 is 9. Close the bracket, times 2. Okay, we still have that bracket lingering with us, so we have to complete what's in there. And now we have an addition, which is going to be 9 plus 6, or 6 plus 9. So let's bring everything over and let's solve for the bracket. So divided by 4. And now we have a number here, which is going to be plus 15 times 2. Okay, so let's continue here. So continue with BEDMAS, and what do we have next? So we've got 12 minus 8 divided by 2 plus 15 times 2. So what do we do in BEDMAS? In BEDMAS, the next step, we don't have any more brackets, we don't have any more exponents. We've got division and multiplication, and we do them in the order that they come. Okay, so these are 2, division and multiplication, which means that the 12 keeps coming down with us. We're not doing anything with it, but we're ready to divide 8 divided by 4, which is 2, plus 15 times 2, which is 30. All right, then we have only subtraction and addition left. And so subtraction and addition is at the very end of BEDMAS, which is addition and subtraction, and we do it in the order that it comes from left to right, which means we're going to do this one first, and then we're going to add. So 12 minus 2 is 10, plus 30. So our total here is 40. Okay, let's do the next one. So we've got a very similar question. It's almost the exact same thing, with the difference that this time the exponent is outside of the bracket. So let's do this. This is not the same as this exponent inside the bracket. And so we're going to bring down all of the numbers that we're not doing anything with. So we said it's BEDMAS. So for BEDMAS, we're going to take care of the bracket first. So anything that's inside the bracket. Everything else comes with us for the ride. Okay, so when we look at this bracket, what do? 4 plus 2, which equals 6 minus 3. And all of this in here, whatever we're going to get from there, that is what's going to get squared. Okay, times 3. All right, next line. So we still have a bracket, so we need to solve for this bracket so we can get rid of it. So everything else comes for the ride. Minus 8. Divided by 4. Okay, now we can dissolve the bracket. 6 minus 3 is 3. So we didn't have an operation there, as you notice. So what is that going to mean? That's going to mean that we're going to end up multiplying these two numbers. Okay, we didn't have a plus sign here or a minus sign, so we need to leave it inside a bracket. And essentially we're going to multiply that in here. Okay, times 3, and this is squared. Okay. So our next step is BEDMAS. What's next? Do we have a bracket? No, we don't have a bracket. Okay, we have this bracket, but we already know we're just going to be multiplying to the outside of the bracket. Okay, great. What's next? Exponents. Do we have exponents? Yeah, we've got an exponent right here. So that's what we're going to be doing next before we continue. We bring everybody else for the ride. Divided by 4. We're going to leave the bracket in here because, look, there's no operation sign here, so we need to keep it the way it is. But this time we're going to take care of the exponent. So 3 to the power 2 is 9 because it's the same thing as 3 times 3. Okay, there we go. So next step, BEDMAS. What's next? We took care of brackets. There's no more brackets. There's no more exponents. There's division and multiplication, and we do those based on whichever comes first from the left to the right. That means we have this one and we have this one. So that is 12 minus 8 divided by 4, which is 2. And we're going to put the bracket in here because, again, we don't have a sign yet. So what's 9 times 3? 27. Okay. Next line, we've got BEDMAS. What do we still have? We still have a multiplication and we have a subtraction. So we know the multiplication has to be done first. Okay. And now we're going to do 2 times 27, and just grab my calculator here. So we got 54. So 2 times 27 is 54, so it would be 12 minus 54. And finally, we have reached the end where we can actually take care of that subtraction, which is going to be 12 minus 54, which is negative 42. And that is our final answer for that question.